Good morning. It's me, Dr. Latanya Hughes. I am the authority in global business dynamics. And this morning, I am talking with you about financial literacy for entrepreneurs. I know a lot of us, particularly those women who are entrepreneurs, have a struggle at times understanding finances in business. Now, a lot of us have trouble with finances in our personal lives. And, I can understand that it can be challenging at best. But today I want to help kind of give you some foundation, some information that can help you grow your business, but also get off to a good start if you're considering starting a business. Entrepreneurship, I believe, is not something that should be entered into too lightly, but you should at least have some information, some groundwork, or something that allows you to be able to, I guess, make a conscious decision, but at the same time, an informed decision. A lot of times we have great ideas and we think that, hey, I can make some money off of this and run with it. There's a market for everything and for everyone. But to be successful and to have a long-standing business, you need to have some good foundation and some fundamentals, particularly as it relates to finances. So let's get into some things, particularly today about finances for entrepreneurs. And the first thing I want to share with you are some basic financial processes that every entrepreneur must know. Now, there are some basic financial terms that you need to know. You don't have to be an accountant or a finance guru, but you do need to know something as simple and basic as assets and liabilities. You need to understand debits and credits. You also need to know about cash flow, expenses, bottom line, financial statements, income statements, cash flow statements, balance sheets, profit and loss, capital, accounts receivable, depreciation, and for some people, valuation. Now, I know all of that seems like a lot, but it's not as difficult as you think it is. You don't have to be an accountant. You don't have to be a finance guru, but you can go on Google and Google these things for yourself. And depending on your business type, model, and industry, there's some other things you need to know. If you're not in a service industry, meaning you're providing some type of service as a consultant, you don't really need to worry about inventory. But if you have an actual product, you need to know about inventory and inventory control. Everybody needs to know about revenue per employee. What's your gross margin? What's your return on investment? These are some things you need to know. And I see my good friend Ganae Thompson is here. If she wants to, she can have a seat, call in and have sit in with us and share her thoughts about some finances. So what's the best way to screen accountants? This is one of the things that a lot of people don't do. First of all, I do encourage you to get an accountant. At some point along the way, you need a good accountant. Now, good accountants are very hard to find, and it is a trial and error situation, but it is not impossible. I mean, it's a daunting process, but you can do it and you can find whatever it is you're looking for. Because in looking for an accountant, you want to find someone that fits you and your business needs. So let me give you a scenario. I have a colleague and a friend who has had, the absolute worst time with accountants. Her first accountant didn't understand boundaries and would call her, at all hours of the night. And I'm talking 7, 8, or even 9 o'clock at night. What are you doing? That's beyond business hours. But he was very good at what he did. An excellent accountant. So he understood the business, but he had poor customer service skills. He didn't understand boundaries even after she said, please do not contact me concerning business after this time at night. So it was a persistence thing that he did, that the boundaries that were established was not respected. So she to move on to find someone else. Her next experience was just horrible. The person really needed to be working for somebody else, and they needed to be a bookkeeper, pretty much. They had poor customer service skills. Nothing they said they were going to do or could do happened. It ended up costing her financially and possible legal ramifications. Now she has someone who is absolutely fantastic, and this particular person is even fixing the errors from the previous nightmare that she had. But he came by way of a recommendation and a word of mouth, and that's often how you will find a good accountant, is by recommendation and word of mouth. I mean, just because you meet someone at these networking events, do digging. It's okay to want to give other people a chance, to give other people a start, because you want, as an entrepreneur, people to give you a start and to give you a chance. But that you can't do that, or I wouldn't recommend doing that at the risk of your business. So, but it is your choice. It's up to you of what you want to do. So I would, that's kind of what I would recommend. Again, just a few things, just a few things for you to think about and to consider, because it's not, accounting is hard. And some people would rather just kind of, let me just pass this off to someone else. And that is okay. You just want to make sure that the person you are entrusting with your company finances are credible, they're reputable, because at the end of the day, even though you're outsourcing it to someone else, you are responsible. So just something for you to think about. Again, often it's going to come down to word of mouth. Another thing I want to share with you this morning is on financial resources for entrepreneurs. Now, this is a huge, huge topic this morning, because a lot of us are operating on shoestring budgets. What does that mean? We're bootstrapping it. We're financing our own business. It's whatever extra little money coming in, we're spending it in our business. The problem with this is it's not always sufficient. And it tends to prolong the results that most entrepreneurs desire, because everybody's I'm looking for immediate. I'm looking for that big boom. I'm looking for that big break, that big client. And it takes money to make money. But we don't always have it that way. You can always borrow money from family and friends. Some people don't like to do this because it can get messy. But people do it all of the time. It's just how you present it, and how you go about making sure that they get their return on their investment as well. But what if that is not an option for you? You can always try crowdfunding. What is crowdfunding? It is a collective cooperation of people who are networking and pooling their money and resources together. This is usually over the internet, but it's a way for people to come together to support efforts initiated by other organizations. It is not the same as peer-to-peer lending. Peer-to-peer lending typically focuses only on one individual lending to another. It's not a group. Crowdfunding is a group of people coming together and they're pooling their money together. Peer-to-peer is I'm going to you, and it's more one-on-one. So it's usually that's usually how that works. Another thing that you can try is microloan programs and business credit cards. Now, let's talk about microloan programs for a minute. These programs vary. And when I say they vary, I mean they're different depending on who you go to. There are some banks who have microloan programs, but let me talk to you about the SBA. The SBA, the Small Business Association, you guys kind of know I love the SBA. I talk about it all the time in my blabs with my colleagues when we talk about our leadership conversations. The SBA microloan program provides loans up to $50,000 to help small businesses. They also help certain not-for-profit child care centers. Okay, it's not for all not-for-profits. It's certain not-for-profit childcare centers. It's also for them to help them with their startup, but also for expansion. The average microloan from the SBA is about $13,000. Now, you may think $13,000 is not a lot of money, but let's put this into context and perspective for a minute. What kind of business do you have? So let's say you have a jewelry. I have a jewelry business. Let me tell you what I can do with $13,000. Okay. My materials don't even cost $13,000. My good friend and colleague, Dr. Clark, is here. Have a seat, Dr. Clark. $13,000 is a lot of money for me. As an entrepreneur, because first of all, as an entrepreneur, you really need to have a hustle mentality, meaning you have to know where to cut your costs and be strategic. Too many entrepreneurs want to spend too much money right away. We're going to get into that later. But for right now, $13,000 is a lot of money because my materials don't even cost that much. I understand my overhead because I'm not renting space. I work outside of my home. So that's a savings to me. You know, so I don't have additional rent. I don't have additional utilities. I don't have all of these extra things. And so I can save more money. I don't have employees because I don't need them right now. As I build, I may need them later, but right now I don't have that. So I don't have to think about my revenue per employee. And I don't have to think about all of those other things that we talked about earlier because I'm only focusing on building a quality product and making sure that it fits within my corporate social responsibility plan. And that means my sustainability, all of these different things and where I source my materials. And so for me, $13,000 is a lot of money because I can spend the bulk of that where I need it, and that's on marketing. So it's how you allocate those dollars that you get. So now if you have a bigger product and you have a lot more going on, then you may need $50,000 because it depending on what you do. So now think as if you are a food manufacturer. Now a food manufacturer, $13,000 is gone like that because they've got equipment, they've got so much more going on. They need employees. If they're pushing out one pallet, let's say one pallet, a product a day, $50,000 may not be a lot, but it's a dent, and it can give them the start that they need to be able to get the, at least if nothing else, the equipment that they need to be able to push out the volume that they need. So it's all about putting it in perspective and the things that you do. If you are a service provider, meaning you're a consultant, you know, you do human resources, you do leadership training, you do training and development, you work with not-for-profits, you do whatever it is, it's a service, it's not something tangible. Think about what you can do with $13,000. Think about a $13,000 marketing initiative. Trust me, it may not seem like it's a lot of money, but it is. So it's all about perspective and how you allocate those dollars. So now I'm in Florida. So in Florida, there is a microfinance program. I have actually spoken with a representative there, and the Department of Economic Opportunity, what they do is they competitively award funds to no more than three eligible loan administrators who will in turn provide a one-to-one match to make short-term microloans of up to $50,000 to entrepreneurs and small businesses. Now, to participate in this microloan program as the borrower, what you have to do is you have to agree to business training and technical assistance provided by the Florida Small Business Development Network. That's small compared to what you're getting. And basically what they're doing is they're making sure that you are equipped with what you need to be successful. So it's pretty much like their due diligence to make sure that they're giving you everything you need to be successful, because it is a loan, which means you have to pay it back. You probably have a lower interest rate because it's through these programs. However, you still have to pay it back. So they're basically equipping you with everything that you need to be able to pay them back and still turn a profit. Because what's the point of getting a loan to advance your business if you're not making any money. The same thing as with your not-for-profit. Now, if you're a not-for-profit, I do not recommend getting a loan. There are so many grants and other ways for you to get money. You are a not-for-profit. Be strategic. Think. One of the things that you have to your advantage is people need philanthropy. They need things that they can invest in, particularly businesses. Partner with a business who's looking for a some type of organization for their corporate social responsibility plan so they can get in the community. Find what they are passionate about and see if that aligns with the goals of your not-for-profit organization. Maybe you have a community event every year back to school. A lot of organizations do backpack giveaways, or they do drives for school supplies and all these different things to help the children and families. What if you partner with businesses to sponsor your events? 25 here, 50 there, and that's nothing but major advertising for them. Now they have a presence in the community and they have a write-off, and all you have to do is give them a letter. And your event is covered. Thinking. It's all about being strategic and thinking outside the box and thinking beyond conventional and seeing about those different partnerships. And we'll talk about some partnerships later. Another way to finance your business is through incubators. This is something, a term that's been around lately in the past few years that's a little bit new. A startup incubator is a company, university, or any other organization that ponies up, meaning bringing up, just like with crowdfunding, resources. That's lab space, office space. They provide consulting, cash, marketing, whatever it is. They do. They pony it up. They're bringing it together. They're bringing it to the table in exchange for equity in a young company. And it's off. And when I say a young company, meaning it's new. It's a startup. All startups are vulnerable in the beginning, but you need help. So what if you have an incubator who's willing to say, you know what, I believe in what you have going on. This happens a lot with tech, by the way, or anybody that's doing any type of development, particularly those who have like all of these inventions and different things like that. They're saying, okay, what if this company right here says, I'm going to give you the space that you need to work. This one over here says, I'm going to give you some consulting on how to best market your product. This one over here says, I'm going to bring some marketing to you, and I'm going to show you how to best leverage what you have to bring it to market, but also opportunities of where you can expand. This one might come in and say, hey, I'm going to give you some cash because I believe that this is a good opportunity to invest in. That's an incubator. You have all these different things coming together in one incubator, and they're basically telling you this is what we can bring to the table in exchange for equity in your company. What does equity mean? Means we get a piece of the pie. We're giving you something. And in return, what we get is equity in your company because it's a win-win. It's money for them in some capacity because they got just as much vested in you now as you do because they want to see this come to fruition and to be a success. So, that's something that's very important to you, and that's something that you want to think about. Hi, Dr.
Hi.
And so let's talk about, and I just do you have something you want to share real quick while you're on the road?
Yeah, this is bad blab habit, so don't do
Yes.
what I do. No, I think you're talking about some important things. I just wanted to highlight the creative nature of funding your projects or your business. So, depending on the business you're in, there are ways to make money without even putting up money.
Mm-hmm.
One good example is the example you, I, and Philip are working through.
Right.
And we are looking to do some trainings together.
Right.
And not one time did I ask you or Philip to put up money.
Right.
So what we're negotiating are points on the net take from the events and how that is spread across the three of us, and how do we spread those points also
Right.
to other staff that we know we need to hire, which we've been able to secure at this point.
Right.
So when we talk about points, it's the same thing as what you're talking about, which is equity within a project or a business, and
Right.
it's just a percentage equity ownership of the event. So what one of the things that Dr. Foster mentioned as he discussed the points he would like to have is, when I take these points, I am showing that I am invested in the success of this. I have skin in the game. So
Mhm.
while I'm not putting money up, I am my payday is based upon the number of tickets that we sell, butts and seats, and that does impact my take home pay at the end of the day because I have points that I'm taking away from the event. So that's one example. Another example is being able to flip products,
Mhm.
be the intermediary or the middleman.
Right.
That takes skill to learn how to flip. I've done it in the real estate world, and I have a sense of how that works. So there are many mechanisms that you can, employ that will allow you to be successful without really putting up money.
Right. And one of the things you and I have talked about is particularly for nonprofit organizations, and when you're putting on events, even if it's a for-profit, like what we're talking about doing is looking for a sponsor.
Yep.
If you have, and
Yep.
now let me help you all understand something. This is particular when it comes to providing a service. We're talking about an event
Right.
where we don't have a tangible product per se. I mean, each of us respectively have books, but what we're bringing to the table is a service. We're providing information,
Right.
different things. So we're building value through the information. So what we would do is find sponsors who are looking for our particular audience, who is their target market. So now here's the win-win. They pay us to market, whether it's okay, we're going to sponsor breakfast. Another may say we're going to sponsor the afternoon break. Another may say we'll do all the printing in exchange for this amount of marketing. That's huge because now that puts them in front of their target market, front and center, and all they're going to see throughout the event is this is provided by XYZ, da 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 da, and that's less money that we have to spend on all of these different things. And so now we can focus more on building more value. That's added value to
Yep.
what you are presenting to your audience, because now it's not just you've partnered with other organizations, you've partnered with other businesses who want
Yep.
to get in on what you're doing, not because of the information you're sharing, but because of who you're sharing that information with. So that's
Yep.
kind of what, some things that you want to be creative about when it comes to getting out here to secure funding and financing for some of the things you're doing. And again, for service providers, these are some of the things you want to do. Think outside the box, think about partnerships and people you can collaborate with, so that you can get ahead of the
Yep.
game. And you've got to be strategic because when it comes to securing financing and capital, particularly with venture capital, it's so competitive right now,
Yep.
that even now a lot of it is all tech focused. If it's
Yep.
not in
Yep.
STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, I'm not saying forget it, but I'm saying forget it. If if you can
You
get
know,
what I'm saying. Go ahead, Dr. Clark.
and so I wanted to comment on the sponsorship thing. You when I jumped on your blab, you were talking about trying to save money, and it doesn't cost you anything to
Right,
reach out to businesses to say,
right,
hey, would you mind being a partner?
right.
Um, the other piece of this too, that which I talked about a little earlier, and we talked about this privately, is you and I and Philip as the content creators do not have the capacity to do all this work, and we don't have money, collective money to hire somebody.
Right.
I've had the conversation with someone that I feel like could do the job, and offered her the same thing I offered you and Philip, and that is, again, she gets a flat rate and she gets points off of the success of the project, and really her job is probably more important than ours, because if she doesn't do her job, then we're not selling tickets,
Right.
and she's not getting any points, let alone we are.
Right.
So that's one thing. The other thing that I wanted to mention, and this is my personal preference, and I try to exemplify this, and I think you're seeing this too, is I'm just a fan of no debt. I started a business back in 2006/7, and I initially was doing well, and I hit some bumps in the road. One bump I hit in the road was that I didn't know I overpaid for a particular product, and while my return was reasonable, I overpaid. And since then, I've learned the art and skill of negotiating and buying at the right price. The other thing that happened is that the market crashed, which wiped me out completely.
Wow.
And I learned the hard lesson of what it means to really be in debt and to owe somebody money. We're Christians, and so Bible teaches us and people who read it that when you are in debt, you're a slave to the lender. And as I began to read and study that more, and I was going through that, it became my reality. I was a slave, and as a slave, you are you're held by the neck, really, by the bank. And it was at that point, probably around 2011-12, that I made the transition to funding all of my businesses cash.
Right.
So that's when I learned the skill of being the one to flip contracts, flip my position, negotiate my positions on paper and sell them, or sell my position, which meant I didn't have to front any money. I've learned the art and skill of negotiating on both ends, right? And so I've gotten really, really good at it, to the point that I'm kind of nitpicky about things. I've gotten to the point where if I want to fund something, I'll just create money.
Right.
And the creation of money is really what we're talking about, right? So these live events that we're talking about, there are expenses that go on behind the scenes. But, these are expenses that can be deferred after you've collected revenue already from your paying customer.
Right.
And it takes, I think, skill and knowledge to really know how to position what you're selling to make sure you're not paying out of pocket. One good example is, you mentioned we both write books. I have a publishing house. One of the things I do, I sell my books via ebooks, and I primarily try to stay away from Amazon because I want to keep as much profit as possible. But my e-delivery system is automatic, so you don't get the book until you pay.
Right.
But here's the kicker: with the hardback books, I don't send out hardback books until you paid.
Right.
That's the way I've set up my system. And if you just think about that simple concept, like $10, $50, $20 for a book, after I get your money and it clears my account, then I'll order your book. I use the money paid to me to order my book wholesale, so that it goes to you. That simple concept is what LaTanya is talking about, and is centered around not expending money or using money wisely or creating money. So, it takes a experience. I think it takes skill, but for me, I had to learn the hard way, and it was painful. Now I'm reaping the benefits, but it didn't feel good at the moment.
You're right. And I think what you were saying boils down to one thing: kill and eat. Listen, the Bible says the man that don't work don't eat. But at the same time, when it comes to sales and business, if you don't kill, you don't eat. You've got to get out there. But how you kill determines how much you eat. So, and it's about strategy, being smart. I watch nature shows. And so if you watch how the different animals in nature hunt and pursue their food, you can see that some have a greater strategy and are much more successful than others. Does it have anything to do with how weak and strong they are? Possibly. But I think strength in mind and strategy goes a lot stronger than physical, because I've seen antelope at times be more cunning and strategic and getting out of things for self-preservation purposes. The same thing we need to apply as people, particularly entrepreneurs. We have to have that kill and eat mentality, kill or eat mentality. It's who's depending on us. When it comes to lions and the lioness, it's the women who go out and hunt for the food to bring back to the pack. And so for the herd, that they take care of the home. And so when they go out and hunt, I don't know if you watch Lion King, but Nala was much better than Simba. He didn't even see her coming. And she was like, pow, gotcha every time. And what happened when they grew up? When they grew up and were apart for so long, pow, she still had it better. Why? She had a better strategy. She was much more, cunning at maneuvering and doing different things. this is what we're talking about today when it comes to finances and financing your business as an entrepreneur. You've got to be wily, you've got to be strategic, and you've got to start thinking about these things so that you can be just as successful. Some people are lucky at finding angel investors. Now, these are people, now, if you're looking for like $250,000, angel networks come in handy. Think back to when I was talking about food manufacturers or someone who's manufacturing at mass quantities, huge. They need all of this equipment. They need all of these different things. You need angel investors. To find these people, you need to network, meaning kill and eat. You've got to be out there on the hunt, constantly on the go, forming partnerships, getting out there. Dr. Clark and Dr. Foster and I, we're very much partners. It's like, this is it. We're all bringing what we have to the table. We have different disciplines. We have different areas of expertise, but we're coming together to make it happen. And so for you out there, if you need large amounts of cash, you have got to get out there and network and get in front of people who have these resources. And that's where you've got to do some research. Here's some of the pitfalls that entrepreneurs tend to fall into. Too many entrepreneurs underestimate how much money they need for business. They don't do the research. All they think about is, I got a good idea and I'm going to run with it. They don't know anything about running a business. They don't know anything about costs. They don't know anything about strategy. They don't have a mentor. They don't have any of that. All they know is, I got a product, I got a service, this thing is good, I know my market, and that's it. But there's so much more to that. Other people take their idea and they only sell to one customer, and then they expect that one customer to keep their business afloat. One customer can't carry your business. That's just not even realistic. Now you're talking about one customer profile that may be 1 million people that fits that customer profile. That's different. But one customer is not realistic to carry a business. Then there are people who they've got it all together, but now they think, I can make this happen, but I'm going to cut corners. When you do this, you sacrifice quality for quantity. The problem is, you get what you pay for, and that usually ends in short term, meaning your business is only going to be around 3 to 6 months. Some may last a year, some may go along, but eventually it starts going down on decline because of the quality, and people want quality and they're willing to pay for it. And that means, some people hire cheap labor. Again, that's going to wear thin on your brand. Why? Because all of this costs in the long run. What's happening? People are investing in you. People aren't buying your product or service. They're buying you. That's something you've got to know as an entrepreneur, first and foremost. At the end of the day, people are buying you. You are the one presenting your product or service. So they're really investing in you. It's how you present the information. So you can have the best product in the world, but nobody's going to experience it if they don't like you, if they don't trust you, or if they feel like you're nickeling and diming them. You might actually be nickeling and diming, but your customer cannot know or experience or feel like you're nickeling and diming them. Trust me, it's going to hurt you. All of this costs you in the long run. The other thing is lack of patience. Entrepreneurs see what they want and are impulsive at times. This is what they think. I want immediate results. Got to be right now. I need to see big return on investment right now. So they focus more on short-term turnaround, and that's not always realistic. They have what's called the I want syndrome, and that's costly and expensive. So you have to tame the want impulse. Ganae Thompson is tuning in today, and she wrote a book on taming the want impulse. Now, her book is written for single women, but I believe what she has to say in her book has some very poignant points for entrepreneurs that entrepreneurs can learn. First of all, you can't be impulsive. It can't be about your emotions. When you're in business, you have to contain that, because you can be excited. Keep that excitement going, but drive that passion in your marketing. Don't let that drive your decisions when it comes to spending money, because you're going to spend more money up front unnecessarily. Like Dr. Clark just taught us, there are some things that if he knew then, he wouldn't have spent so much money on. He would not have overpaid. But it may not have been impulsive. It may not have been emotional. But for some people, we just, oh, I need that. Oh, I need that. I need that. You might need it, but do you need it right now? For instance, if you just got started, you might need employees down the road, but you don't need them now. You just want them right now. See, when you get started, 1 month after getting started, you don't need to be hiring 3 salespeople. That's a want. That's not a need, because that money that what's your return on employees? Meaning, how much are you getting on your return from your employees? But if you really need or want employees, be strategic and think outside the box. What about hiring interns? Have an internship program where the trade-off is they're learning. You don't pay, you get the labor, but they're learning about your specific business, and they can take it back to school, write up whatever program they need, whatever report they need, and it's done. Think. But you got to tame that want impulse to immediately want to hire people, because if you can't sell your product, how are you going to convince somebody else on how to sell your product or your service? So be patient, but also be willing to do the work yourself. Kill and eat. Kill and eat. Put things in perspective. You can't only think short term as a business owner. At some point, you have to keep that long-term goal in mind while making short-term goals that are around your long-term vision. So take your long-term vision and scale it back to shorter-term goals that are smart, that are realistic and timely, so that you can get that long-term goal. For instance, what if you say, I want 1% of the market? Okay, so say you are, I'm going to take myself as an example. I'm a jewelry manufacturer. And my goal is I want 1% of my market. I don't do metal. I do what we call fashion jewelry. I do beaded fashion jewelry. I want 1% of my market. Now, 1% might not be big to you, but trust me, I've done the numbers. It's in the millions. And I'm not talking like one. I'm talking about 3-digit millions. Millions. That's only 1% of the market. See, if you do the research and find out how much 1% of your market is, you will find out that's a pretty good chunk of the pie. The problem is sometimes we want to be the big fish. Maybe getting to be a big fish means starting off small, meaning let me just start with 1%, because I guarantee you when you start catching 1%, people are going to pay attention, because 1% is a lot of money. Look at your industry and your market and do the research, you will find out. And so if I want 1%, now my goal is I need to take that 1% and chunk it down into smaller increments. So 1% over what amount of time? So within 10 years, let's say within 10 years, I want to secure 1% of my market. Well, what does that equate to in over 10 years? I've got to take the numbers. And I've got to take that number and scale it back to how much 1% is over 10 years. Now, every year, now I have my annual number. Now I need to chunk that down into monthly. Then I need to chunk that down to weekly and to daily. That's your short term. Your short term is this is how much I need to kill so I can eat this amount every day. Perspective. Keeping it in perspective. Understanding that impulse buys and deals can cost you in the long run if you're not careful. Every partnership is not a good partnership. Bottom line, be patient. Earlier we talked about venture capital, and I want to talk to you about some advantages and disadvantages of venture capital. Right now it's very, very competitive. And again, if it's not around the world of STEM, not saying that it's not possible, but just saying it's very competitive. So let's talk about the advantages of venture capital for a minute. One of the big advantages of venture capital is expertise in business. Aside from the financial backing, obtaining venture capital financing can provide a startup or a young business with a valuable source of guidance and consultation. Let me just say something. You don't need a venture capitalist to get this. You can go to the Small Business Development Center. I say this all the time, under the SBA, and get you a business mentor for free. Additional resources in a number of critical areas, including legal, tax, and personnel matters. A venture capitalist firm can provide active support, all the more important at a key stage in the growth of a young company. And again, your business mentor through the SBDC, Small Business Development Center, should be able to do this for you. Yeah. And connections. Venture capitalists are typically well connected in the business community. Your business coach through the Small Business Development Center should be doing that for you as well. The disadvantages. Now, I'm not saying that venture capitalists are not, because it's perspective. It really is perspective, and it's depending on how much you need. If you need the capital, you need the money, and you by all means, go for it. The disadvantages is loss of control, because pretty much the equity that they are going to want in your business is going to be high. The financing, the charges, all of that kind of stuff, that adds up. Think about financing on steroids. That's pretty much what it is. By the time they're done, you have minority ownership in your own business. So basically, at the end of the day, you may as well just sell your business, build it and sell it yourself. Because by the time the venture capitalists are done getting what's owed to them, you are going to be a minority partner in your business. Now, if you're okay with that, it's fine. Go for it. But understand that if you are a minority partner in your business, that means you lose management control. And the number one reason, Dr. Clark knows this for sure, the number one reason people get into business, I want to be a manager for myself. I want to manage myself. I want to be my own manager. Me, I. So if that's you, venture capitalist is not for you. You may as well go with the micro loan program and take your time. Build your business slow. I'm just putting it out there to help you out. Bottom line, would you rather own your business or partner in a larger, potentially more successful one? Because they can get you there. That's the whole point. That's why they take so much of your company, because they know they can get you there. They know they can get you there. You're paying for their longevity. You're paying for their experience. You're paying for their knowledge. You're paying for the partnerships and the network that they have built. That's what you are paying for. And you get what you pay for. The question is, what are you willing to sacrifice for it? I don't know about you, but if I spent all this time putting something together, I'm going to take my time and build it, and it's going to be mine. When I'm ready to sell my business, I'm selling it, meaning how much you want to take my business overall. I'm done. Just send me a check every month and I don't have to work. Now I can take that money and invest into a new venture, because people do that. That's an exit strategy. And in the next episode, we'll talk about exit strategies and succession planning, because every business should have one. But my final point is, how do entrepreneurs find and screen credible venture capitalists? And my answer is going to be the same as with accountants: networking. It's not an easy question to answer, because it can be just as challenging. You have to be patient, you have to do your research, and you have to network. Make sure you weigh all the pros and cons before you invest time and energy into pursuing venture capitalists. Because at the end of the day, it boils down to what your end goal is. What's the end game? What do you want when it's all said and done? Dr. Clark and I, as Dr. Clark said, we're authors. We've published books. Ms. Thompson has published books, and Dr. Clark had an experience when he was researching some publishers, and one of the things he said was, I try to stay away from Amazon because I want to keep as much of the profits as possible. And that's true. And I know that Amazon is one of the ones who actually allows you to keep a majority of your profits compared to some others. But when he was researching one in particular, and I will not name the name, one of his concerns was not only the profits, but maintaining the rights to your content. As an author, that is huge, because if you're sitting down spending hours writing a book, you want to own the rights to your content. There's no way I'm giving up that. I wrote it. I put the time and energy into it. I'm just not going to give that away. That's the same thing you need to think about when it comes to venture capitalists. That's your business is your baby. My book, all of this is my baby. I'm writing my baby part 2, and I have a third one coming on after that. 200 plus pages of blood, sweat, tears, time away from my family, time away from this and that, sacrifice. It's not worth giving to someone else. I don't care if I don't get as much profit, so to speak, from my book, because I know that in the long run, when I put the work and energy into marketing and I'm going to eat what I want eventually. But it takes time. I'm learning to be patient with the process, but I'm not just going to give it away. Why would I sell the rights to something because eventually I won't get paid off? Let me share with you. There's a Tuskegee graduate, and you all have probably seen it in the news a few years ago, who actually owned the patent to the Super Soaker. And so when he sued because they didn't pay him for his idea, he won. And so they had to pay him all of these millions of dollars back, residual pay. And now he gets a check for every sale, for every spinoff of the Super Soaker. Everyone, every type of Super Soaker product out there, generic and name brand, he gets paid off. Why? He sold the concept, but he didn't sell the patent. He owns the rights. Genius. And what I'm saying to you is, when you start getting into business and you have a brainchild, I don't care if you think if you've got the new way to do XYZ to solve this particular problem, or you've got the new product that's going to answer this, and this. That's your baby. That's your brainchild. Why would you sell that? In your exit strategy, you may decide, I'm going to sell my business. But if you have a patent that goes along with that business, my recommendation, don't sell that patent. Keep your patent. But they can have the business. Sell it. And use that money to invest in another business. That's how it works. That's how people go along and build their wealth, because they start a business, they grow it, they sell it. Start a business, grow it, sell it. Start a business, grow it, sell it. Some people's succession plan is start a business, grow it, sell it. My succession plan is sell this business. That's my exit strategy. My exit strategy is sell this business. I don't want it forever. And then there are those who want it forever. And the succession plan is, I'm looking for somebody with just as much innovation that I can groom to lead my company next. There's a process for everything, and we'll get into that next. But today, I hope I've shared some information, some ideas, some tips with you on financial literacy for entrepreneurs. There's so much to consider, but my main thing is I want to urge you is know the basics for yourself. You need to know how to do a balance statement, an income statement. If nothing else, know how to read it. Understand debits and credits. Too many entrepreneurs get in trouble financially, particularly with the government, because they don't know the first thing about their books. And I'm gonna be honest, IRS does not care about your illiteracy when it comes to financial literacy, because that's your responsibility as a business owner, just like it's your responsibility as a taxpayer to pay your taxes and to file your taxes. It's the same thing for a business. no excuse. You've got to know the basics. You have to know when somebody's cooking your books. So you have to be careful with your bookkeepers. You have to know, because if you don't know, there are people out there whose sole purpose in business is to find people who are financially ignorant so that they can cook your books. And you don't want someone working your books that's cleaning somebody else's money through your business. Like it or not, it happens. It's still happening. And all I'm going to leave you with is the Panama Papers. You don't want to end up like that. So be careful out there. Know the basics. We live in the age of Google. I say this all the time. Dr. Clark has heard me say this before. We live in the age of Google. There's no reason why anyone doesn't know anything or can't find out what they're looking for. Google it. And I guarantee you, there's all kinds of information. The SBA has free resources and information on their website to help you as a small business owner. If you want to grow to be a large company, start small. It's okay to have the mindset of the elephant. Dr. Clark, I believe, recommended a book called Bagging. I think it's called Bag the Elephant by Kaplan. I actually bought his other book called Be the Elephant, and it's a fantastic book. If you want to bag the elephant, be the elephant. Fantastic complimentary book. I recommend every entrepreneur get the book and learn it and read it for yourself. If you're thinking about going into business, you need Kaplan's books on bagging the elephant and being the elephant, because confidence breeds confidence. And if you want that elephant, you got to walk in there like the big dog in the room. Can you kill this elephant so you can eat? Period. So you've got to have that confident mentality. And so sometimes it's good. And I need to go back and reread those books because it was so much information and content. It's rich. And I just want to encourage you as entrepreneurs and business owners, make sure you're always reading, you're always in tune, not only with your industry, but also just on resources and how to be successful as a business owner. But one of the things I want to encourage you to do is get back to the basics, learn the basics, take 10 minutes a day, 10 minutes. To just learn the basics, even if it's just, if nothing else, just knowing the vocabulary. That makes the difference. Until next time, I'll talk with you guys later. Thanks so much for tuning in with me today. See you next time.